Are set to take on Burnley this Sunday at 2 p.m. In this video, we're going to be previewing the game. We're going to be speaking about my dream lineup. We're going to be speaking about the players that I think should get a chance and probably will get a chance. And we're going to be discussing a bit about Burnley and why I think I've chosen these certain players to hurt them. So let's get straight into this one. Also, please, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. All you have to do is click that subscribe button. Basically, there are 67% of you who watch these videos who aren't actually subscribed to the channel, so I'd really appreciate it if you could do that. And back to the video. Now, this Sunday is a huge opportunity for Wolves to get 3 points. It really is. Now, when you look at the table, of course, Burnley have got more points than, to be honest, I expected them to get this season. Obviously, coming off the back of a 2-0 win against Leeds as well. However, I do think Burnley at home should be the game in the calendar that Wolves fans are most confident about winning. Now, as I've said, Burnley are no slouches this season. They've started relatively well considering the poor window, really, that they had. But I do think it's a massive game. Now, for me, this is the lineup that I would play. Aside from Jose Sarr, of course, who we would have Sam Johnston in there, but I've just got him in there as a placeholder. It will be Sam Johnston. Now, the right back for me, I've gone for Jackson Tuchua. I think Matt Doherty had a really poor game, as we saw against Sunderland. I like Doherty, and I want to see him playing for Wolves, but if he's playing at that level, he just simply can't really play in this squad at the moment in the way that the Wolves are playing as a team. They need as many players at their best as possible. And Keanu Hervey didn't exactly cover himself in glory when coming off the bench, although that might seem harsh, but I just don't think he did that much in the game, really. Then I've gone for Santiago Bueno and Krejci as those two centre-backs, which for me is a no-brainer. Those two have been the most solid options for Wolves this season. Yes, Krejci's off the back of an own goal against Sunderland, but ultimately he, for me, has been the stand-up performer in this Wolves side so far this season. I think he's been absolutely massive for them. And Santiago Bueno, again, a player that I'm not, massively convinced by, but I do think in recent weeks he has proven me wrong and a lot of the doubters of him wrong. I think he's played relatively well. And even in the Sunderland game in which Wolves lost 2-0, I didn't think he played that bad at all. Now, I've gone for Bueno again, but this time at left wing back as well. This is Hugo Bueno, of course, and for me, I just don't see who displaces him in this current setup. It looks like David Muller-Wolfer just isn't really fancied by Vitor Pereira, which seems like a real waste of money now, given the fact that Hugo Bueno, I felt, was always going to start anyway coming into the season, despite some of his defensive frailties. But I do think Hugo Bueno will start at right wing back. And then I've gone for a 4-3-3 again. This is very important. I've slightly put Menezes a bit more advanced, almost to make it sort of a 4-2-3-1 perhaps, but I do think that should be the midfield three. Now, I've criticised Marshall Menezes a hell of a lot. I know a hell of a lot of you have as well, and rightly so. I don't think we're wrong to do that because technically he's nowhere near the level. In terms of decision making, he's nowhere near the level. In the box, in those final third areas, his finishing is not particularly great, despite he does score a fair few goals, but the actual finishes are quite lucky or a bit, of a deflection, stuff like that. Obviously, you think of the Brighton goal as well, but I do think that's the most solid midfield at the moment. Joao Gomez, for me, needs to up his game in terms of he's been brilliant, or relatively decent for most of the season. But I do think the Sunderland performance, as I've said numerous times this week, was arguably his worst performance of the season. So I would like to see more out of him. And then for me, I just don't see a world where Andre shouldn't start. Whether Vitor Pereira does start, and given the fact they've had a bit of a scrapper or a bit of a tiff, I suppose you could say, behind the scenes, I just think it's a no-brainer for them three to start in midfield. Off the right, I've gone João Arias. Now, this is one that you could easily change. I could have easily put Arias out here and someone off to the right. You could put Hwang there. I personally wouldn't. I personally wouldn't put Marshall Menezes there either. I wouldn't put Bellegarde there. There's so many players that I wouldn't put there at the moment, which just says it all, really. I wouldn't put Rodrigo Gomez there either. But I do think Arias is the one that will play there and probably should play there off the right. I do think this will be a game for him to show what he's really worth in a game where, let's be honest, Wolves should be winning and will want to be winning this game. Then, as the number 9, Larson. Now, if you haven't seen my video, check it out. I've done it this week, I think 2 days ago, perhaps even yesterday, on Jorgen Strand Larsen, and a player that I love, but he's just not hit the ground running this season at all. Really struggling for form, but that doesn't help with regards to the players behind him, which is why I've gone for a really rogue shout in Fer Lopez off the left-hand side. Now, I would personally always prefer a left-footed player on the right-hand side, But I do think Arias is best off the right, so it's a bit of a catch-22 situation. Hwang remains to be seen whether he's, fit to play this game, to start this game. I'm not a fan of Hwang, as many of you know as well. Rodrigo Gomez, again, I don't think he covered himself in particular glory against Sunderland, so I don't think really I'd start him. So I'd like to see something different in terms of Fer Lopez. I think Larsson's really been missing that quality into the box, that real quality to find his runs. He makes the runs, he just doesn't receive the ball this season. Last season he was receiving it because of the individual quality over the likes of Ryan Aït-Nouri and Mateus Cunha, and then even the likes of Nelson Semedo, who, yes, his balls were not unbelievably brilliant when he got in that final third, but ultimately he made things happen and got forward, and that's what we haven't seen enough with Chachua. So I do think that Fer Lopez coming into this team adds a bit of a creative spark. And also the fact that when you look at the likes of Burnley this season, especially against Liverpool, against Leeds as well last weekend, very much a 5-4-1, almost throughout most of the season, to be quite honest. And that is, plays into Fer Lopez's hands, in my opinion. I think he's one of these players that's going to unlock the door. He wants to get on the ball. And Burnley will come and sit deep, and they'll look to counter with the likes of Jadon Anthony. They will want to do that. They'll want to get Lyle Foster up there, or depending on who plays up front, whether it's Zian Fleming as well, which we saw against Leeds, whether they want to get Loom Chowner up there as well. Another player that I think is really dangerous. I think he's had 5 shots this season, and I think 3 of them have come off the bar and 2 of them have gone in, or something like that, or 1 of them has gone in, 4 of them have come off the bar. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I do think, with regards to the way that Burnley do set up, wanting to hit teams on the counter, I think with the likes of having Chachua at right back as well, I think that could be massive for Wolves, because his recovery pace will be so useful. But I do think Wolves will have a lot of the ball in this game, and that is the reason why, for me, Fer Lopez should play this one. Who should Wolves look out for when playing against Burnley? Now, I know that a lot of you don't really watch Championship football, so I want to speak to you a bit about some of the Championship players they've also had, but also some of the new signings that you may not have seen. Now, Jadon Anthony, we've known about him for a long time, obviously played for the likes of Leeds and Bournemouth, and that sort of thing, was obviously on loan there from Bournemouth. But Jadon Anthony, for me, this season has started so impressively. Started 8 games, as you can see there, 5 goal contributions in those 8 games. I thought he was absolutely brilliant in almost every game. Even against Liverpool, where Burnley didn't have too much of the ball, he was the one, again, making things happen, trying to be dangerous. Obviously played really well against Manchester City as well. And for me, Jadon Anthony's a really top talent. Now, when I also look at other players in this squad, I like Quindishley-Hartman, who is the left wing-back / left back for this Burnley side, and he's absolutely brilliant. I really liked the idea of them signing him from Feyenoord in the summer. I thought it was a really impressive move, and a move of real intent, to be honest. And obviously it's going to be interesting. Both Feyenoord left-back options from last season are actually here in this game, in Hugo Bueno and Quindishley-Hartman. Now, 2 players that I think are really good, relatively similar players as well, but Hartman's more of a sort of a tough tackler and a bit more solid defensively, and I think he is very impressive when it comes to going forward. Now, if we just take a quick look at some other players that you may not have spoken about or seen. Now, Lyle Foster's one that he's had a really tough career. He's had a really tough mental health issues in the last few years, but I do like him as a player. I think he can be dangerous on his day. And this man, I really would love to discuss just briefly as well. Leslie Ugochukwu, now obviously a Chelsea loanee. We saw him at Southampton last season, and a player for me that I think has been so impressive for Burnley this season. Now, it may seem crazy given the fact that he's only played 300 odd minutes this season, and he has had a red card in there as well. But for me, I've been really impressed whenever he has played. Looked a real goal threat from midfield. Someone that's really wants to get on the ball, make things happen, and offer things in the final third as well with those late runs. And I do think that's something that Wolves will have to watch out for. I think in terms of him defensively, he's very well-rounded, and I do think he's a player that really will suit this Burnley side against Wolves, to be honest, and he'll have to do a hell of a lot of running. And then I also want to quickly speak about Florentino Luis. Now, I just want to quickly discuss him because what a player. He is just absolutely brilliant. When it comes to marquee signings, he is one of them, and I just couldn't believe that they managed to secure him on loan, obviously sign him on loan from Benfica, and a player, again, that screens the back line so well, so consistent. He hasn't played a ridiculous amount of football this season, obviously because of the time he came in the summer transfer window, but he is such a cut above this Burnley side, and for me, in terms of overall as a package, he is their best player. So I do think a midfield battle will be massively interesting with, in my opinion, some of Wolves' very best players in Andre and João Gomez being in there against the likes of Leslie Ugochukwu and Florentino Luis. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how those 2 midfields combat against each other. And I think whichever midfield comes out on top, I will believe will be the team that wins the game. Overall, I think it's a game that Wolves simply have to win, not just for the club, but for Vitor Pereira's life at Wolves. I do think if they lose this game, it is all but over, if it isn't already. I do think potentially they might give him the Chelsea game, which I think would be absolutely ridiculous, to be quite honest. But I do think it is all over in the Premier League for Vitor Pereira if they lose this game. I don't think he'll manage a Premier League game again. I do think it's a massive, massive game on the weekend. And please, if you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think about the game on the weekend. More importantly, I want to hear your opinions in the comments below. I really love interacting with you all, so thank you all for watching. Thank everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.